The Hangar Z podcast welcomes Lieutenant Commander Nathan Jones and AST-2 Zachary Sowers of the United States Coast Guard's Air Station Clearwater.
Yeah, so we got launched. It was our last full day deployed down to up at Great Anagua in the Bahamas, and a cruise ship had picked up 6 survivors in a raft, and they had said that their boat had gone down trying to sail from Dominican Republic to Turks and Caicos, and that there were 6 other people in the water.
Welcome to the Hangar Z podcast, brought to you by Vertical Helicasts and partnered with Vertical Valor Plus. Thank you to the 2026 Blades of Valor Tour sponsor, Switlik Survival Products, and the support of Massif Flight Suits. Without your sponsorship and support, this tour would not be possible. Switlik Survival Products supports aviation, marine, military, and search and rescue with a wide variety of high-quality survival products. To learn more, go to switlik.com. The Blades of Valor Tour spotlights public safety aviation units recognized for outstanding service and celebrates those who go above and beyond. We aim to promote the good work of these agencies and highlight the standard of excellence they set. These teams serve as a benchmark for the public aviation community. Our mission is to share their stories of unwavering commitment, courage, innovative leadership, teamwork, and technological innovation from agencies setting the standard in public safety aviation. Today's episode comes to you from inside the hangar at United States Coast Guard Air Station Clearwater, the final stop of the 2026 Blades of Valor Tour. Joining us are MH-60T pilot Lieutenant Commander Nathan Jones and helicopter rescue swimmer Zachary Sowers, 2 Coast Guard professionals whose journeys to this moment are as inspiring as the missions they fly. Nate comes from a proud family legacy of service. He began his career in the Coast Guard Reserve before earning an appointment to the United States Coast Guard Academy. Through discipline, perseverance, and an unwavering commitment to excellence, he eventually earned his wings of gold and now flies the powerful MH-60T Jayhawk, one of the most capable search and rescue platforms in the world. Zach's path started with a life-altering near-drowning experience as a young boy. What could have been tragedy became motivation. Swimming lessons turned into competitive success, which led to a Division I scholarship, work as a lifeguard, and eventually a calling to serve, becoming one of the Coast Guard's elite rescue swimmers. Today, he is the one entering the water in the worst conditions imaginable so others can make it home. In this episode, we discuss incredible real-world rescues and the relentless, constant training that keeps these air crews sharp and ready at a moment's notice. We learn more about Air Station Clearwater's mission set, the vast area they cover, and the extraordinary support personnel behind the scenes, the maintainers, operations specialists, and ground crews whose expertise makes every launch possible and every rescue achievable. You'll also gain a deeper insight into the MH-60T Jayhawk, its capabilities, mission versatility, and why it remains such a critical asset for maritime search and rescue, law enforcement, and disaster response. From powerful rescue stories to the disciplined preparation that makes them possible, this conversation highlights teamwork, trust, and a shared commitment to saving lives. Thank you to our sponsors, Onboard Systems Hoist and Winch, CNC Technologies, and Centum.
Welcome to the Hangar Z podcast, brought to you by Vertical Helicasts. The Hangar Z podcast is the first and only podcast dedicated to promoting and exploring the personnel and equipment behind the missions in public safety aviation.
Still southbound, skidding to a stop. Stand by here. Looks like they're getting ready to bail. Heads up, guys, bailing. Okay, the guy, he's running through the house, jumping the fence, through the shotgun, through something out. Grabbing the shotgun. Don't go over that fence. Don't go over that fence. Grab the shotgun again. He is armed. Stay there. Hold your position.
Welcome to the Hangar Z podcast, brought to you by Vertical Helicasts and partnered with Vertical Valor Plus. I'm your host, Jack Shanley. We're here on the Blades of Valor Tour of 2026, our third tour, and we're at stop number 4 in Clearwater, Florida, with the United States Coast Guard at Air Station Clearwater. Really happy to be here, honored to be here. And we have something pretty special here. In addition to our two guests, which are amazing guests today, Mike Reno is sitting in the seat where John Gray normally seats. And Mike, for those that don't know, if you don't know, you've been under a rock. But for those that don't know, Mike Reno is the owner of MHM. And he's the one that supports us, takes care of us, guides us. And he decided to come down and join us for this stop, and we were thrilled to have you. Mike, welcome to the Hangar Z podcast.
Thank you, Jack. It's a pleasure to be down here, and especially to come to Clearwater with the U.S. Coast Guard. So that was pretty special to be able to join the tour on the final stop.
Oh yeah. Well, we're glad that you made it for this. We were hoping you would be here for more of it, to see it and feel it. But boy, you dove in with both feet. I mean, you went in the whole way yesterday. Got back to your roots of photography, I might add. So let's start with this. Overall feeling from yesterday's air-to-air photo shoot. You went up on 2 flights, got a lot of content with Brent Bundy. The two of you were right next to each other getting video, and you were on the photography side. Talk about yesterday, how that was for you.
Well, it was pretty amazing because what you're able to do is experience what these guys do on a regular basis. So to go out there and to train with them, see how they're doing their training for when the mission's real, when they're going out there. So it was pretty incredible to see what they're doing here in Clearwater. You know, we did the day hoisting yesterday, but then to go do it at night.
Yeah.
And then you see, really what that experience is. It was pretty incredible.
Yeah. I mean, these guys are so good at what they do, and it was really a thrill just to watch. For us to witness it firsthand and see what you do was absolutely amazing for all of us. But for Mike and Brent, I mean, they're documenting. And Scott Kellerman was in with us, who is a pilot here at the air station. And Scott is also an accomplished photographer, contributes to MHM. He was with us in Palm Beach earlier last week on stop number 1, did amazing work, video work for us. So Scott was a big part of coordinating this for us. And I'm going to thank him later, but we're going to thank him right now. I mean, Scott was amazing and for getting this all going, and we've been treated like gold here. Talk about the importance of the Blades of Valor Tour from your perspective.
I think what's amazing when we brought the Blades of Valor Tour together was to really highlight what the men and women are doing in that community. So the public safety, air medical, search and rescue, fire, law enforcement. This tour is especially special because we were able to do the law enforcement mission, air medical, fire, and then finish it off with search and rescue. What was also interesting with this tour is that almost every location did have some sort of search and rescue element with it as well,
right?
Where we haven't had that in the past. So to be able to highlight those communities, but what's also interesting is to see how each one between Palm Beach County, Broward County, Miami-Dade Fire, and then here with the Coast Guard, they do search and rescue, but they all do it a little differently.
Right.
So, and all with different platforms.
That's right.
Yep.
It was really cool to see that.
Yeah.
And the search and rescue element is in Florida is because it's in Florida. I mean, the environment almost demands it. For you guys, I mean, like West Coast, many law enforcement agencies, they do 0 search and rescue. I did 0. We had the fire department did it, but for here, they have to be involved in it because they're going to go to places, the Everglades, Biscayne Bay, the ocean, where they're going to need that hoist capability, which we're going to talk to you guys at length about. So the environment drew us to that, and we get to see 4 different styles on it, and they're all impressive. I mean, just really impressive.
And I think and each is a slightly different mission set, but when you look at what the Coast Guard does and how far you're going offshore in many cases, is pretty incredible. What's the typical distance that you guys are flying out of here?
Got probably 250 miles. I'd say is a good average if you really look at your environmentals. You can squeeze a little more out of it, but you're going to sacrifice your on-scene time by doing that.
Right. Wow. I mean, this is unique.
Yeah.
It takes it up a level than what we were seeing. Similar mission when you get there to what the other units are doing, but much further out. Very unforgiving more weather issues with that distance. Rough seas. We're going to talk about that with Zach in a minute here. But that's anything else about Blades of Valor?
I think one of the things with Blades of Valor is that we're bringing different multimedia facets together. So to not just tell a story, but we're also telling best practices. So there's something that people can learn from every story that we're doing via the podcast, online, video, and the magazine. So to be able to bring that all together and encapsulate it under the Vertical Plus or the Vertical Valor Plus brand is fantastic. And the response that we get is that, hey, I learned something from that. And I think you heard that on this tour where, hey, we were listening from last year on the tour or whatever we heard on the Hangar Z podcast, we learned from something like that. So it's not just telling a story from an entertainment perspective, but the fact was like, hey, because we heard that, this is something that we've brought in as well.
Right. And that's the goal. Yep. I mean, and you're right, Mike. We the feedback we get regularly is positive about exactly what you're talking about, where they pick something up from an article, they see something in a video and say, what's that piece of equipment? Or they hear it on the podcast.
Yeah.
It's really rewarding for us. I think we share it with you, and you love hearing about that stuff too.
I love hearing it because that's part of our mission. You know, how do we educate the various sectors and what's out there?
Yeah.
And I think where I saw that was really prevalent was at the AppsCon last summer when we had units coming up one after one. It wasn't just, hey, I like your magazine or I like the podcast. Mm-hmm. They were actually giving us specific examples of, because of that podcast, we learned this and we brought this to our unit.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, that's what our mission is that we can share knowledge, best practices. Yep. And with the Blades of Valor Tour, it does exactly like that. It does that. But I think it's important with Blades of Valor is recognizing the communities that typically don't get the recognition that they deserve.
Right.
And I'll use that as a segue into our Blades of Valor recognition program that we have. We just had it last year was our first time that we did that. But it's not just recognizing the men and women that are on the front lines, that are the air crews, but also gives the opportunity to recognize those behind the scenes. So the maintainers, the mechanics, it could be dispatch, that they somehow played a role that's deserving of being recognized. Yeah. And that's the first time it's been done. So it's time that these people are being recognized for their accomplishments. So I think with Blades of Valor, that really epitomizes like bringing that all together.
Which segues in perfectly to the last question for you before John gives you the hook.
Yeah.
Vertical Valor Plus. People are going to have noticed that, I'm sure, in these last couple podcasts where we say Vertical Valor Plus. What is Vertical Valor Plus?
So like what we like to say is we started with the magazine. Plus is our new era. So the way people are consuming information today has changed. So it's not just via a magazine. We have podcasts, we have video, we have social media, we have online content. And we're really the only ones that have embraced all those ways of getting that information out. Yeah. So the plus is to signify that we're not just a magazine.
Yes.
So we've actually removed magazine from Vertical. We've removed publishing from MHM to really illustrate that we're more than just a magazine.
Yeah.
And this is a great example with the podcast, with the video content, and look at our social media following. I think last year we were tracking 12 million views. What we're doing on social media. So it's incredible to see that transition.
Yeah.
And we're not done. Yeah. And also getting into, failed to mention, was also with the live events. So with the VMRO conference.
Right.
That is for the helicopter mechanics and engineers, which is, again, the first time that's ever been done.
Yeah. And second annual.
Second annual. Yep, second annual. So we'll be in Kelowna, British Columbia in October, and then we'll be in Irving, Texas in November.
Good. So for the listeners, some of whom are in the MRO side of things, but most who aren't, talk to your MRO people. Tell them about these conferences. The reviews were incredible, and I know you were happy. And if you were happy, that was a good sign. I know you got overwhelmed in Kelowna and in Texas from thank yous from that community.
It really, truly was overwhelming because, again, this is a community that traditionally doesn't get recognized. Right. Yesterday we were out here in between our flights and just watching everyone working on the helicopters, and we were getting the cameras in their face, and they're like, "You want pictures of us?" And like, absolutely.
You sure do.
Without you, these don't go anywhere. Yeah. So it's nice to be able to highlight those communities. So we'll be putting out for the Coast Guard and all the locations. We'll be putting out maintenance specific content as well.
Great.
Yeah.
Mike, thanks for hopping in here and stealing the seat for a few minutes because this was valuable.
Take my seat.
Oh, yeah.
Do I have to give? Look, I didn't even get to play any of the.
You can do whatever you want. You're the boss.
I didn't get to play. I didn't get to play anything.
Thanks, Mike.
Well, thank you very much. And again, it's a pleasure being here with the U.S. Coast Guard. It's been a phenomenal couple of days. Can't say enough of the red carpet that's been rolled out for us. But for us, it's a pleasure being able to tell your story, and can't wait to hear your stories right now.
Yes.
Awesome.
It'll be great. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Walk-in music.
Yes.
There we go.
Yes, there he is, ladies and gentlemen, the creator of the Hangar Z podcast, John Gray. John, welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you. Yeah,
That was great.
disappear for a second, and all of a sudden you guys are recording, and Mike's in my seat. Like, what is going on here?
There's something we need to talk to you about. We'll talk in private later.
Is my locker cleaned out? Is that what you're
Yes,
saying?
Hat and books, we used to call it. If you were in a classroom and they came and said, Shanley, hat and books, you will never be seen again. I mean, you leave the classroom and your classmates go, whatever happened to that guy? You never see them again. Hat and books. Welcome back, John.
Thank you.
So now let me start by something I missed in the beginning there, and just saying thank you to MHM. We had Mike here, so thank you, Mike. We say that a lot. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
And Linda. But thank you to all our sponsors. We appreciate the support. That's what makes this possible. And thank you to Massif Flight Suits. Again, we're getting our money's worth, so to say. These suits are great. They're comfortable. They're very, very powerful. I mean, they really do take care of you. And anybody that doesn't know that needs to go to their website and you can learn more. But Massif Flight Suits, thank you for the support. All right. So now they've been waiting so patiently. Let's introduce our guests. Let's start with Lieutenant Commander Nate Jones. Lieutenant Commander Nate Jones, welcome to the Hangar Z podcast.
Thanks for having us.
Oh, man. Yeah, look at that. He's got a fan club.
Even audience here.
Nate is a 60 pilot, and we're going to dig deep into that. And we also have, and I got to look for the official title here, Zach, Aviation Survival Technician Second Class.
Yes, sir.
Zach Sowers. And I said that right? Zach?
Yes, sir.
All right. Also known as a rescue swimmer. I mean, most people, when they hear what you do, they go, oh, he's a rescue swimmer. But that's your official title, and we'll talk about that.
That's the official title, yep.
Yeah. So, real good. Nate and Zach, we're thrilled that you're going to join us here for a little bit today in your hangar here in Clearwater. So, with that, let's kick right into yesterday. And now, Nate, you weren't involved yesterday with the shoot, but Zach was. And Zach was the swimmer on the ship that we were taking photographs and video of. We got to see you work, got to see you deploy from the helicopter. Let's talk about yesterday's air. What did you think about that experience out there with us yesterday?
It was super fun. It's very standard work. It's interesting seeing footage of myself because obviously, we don't get a whole lot of that from another aircraft.
Right.
We'll see hoist cam footage or, some stuff maybe from boats, but it's interesting seeing y'all's perspective of us hoisting and all that kind of stuff. Yeah,
I bet it is. I mean, you're probably seeing things in technique, in height, all sorts of things that you can critique later, I would imagine. Is that accurate?
Yeah. It was pretty mellow yesterday. Not a lot of hoisting for me as far as, deployments to the water. But, I mean, free falls, even then, the perspective of the height from what it looked like from y'all's helo as compared to what I was seeing from us was very different in my eyes.
Right. What is that height normally?
So we try and keep it 15 feet, but
15
obviously
feet.
Depending on wave height, that if you mistime that wave, that deployment can be further than you might want it to be.
Yeah, exactly. What's the highest you think you've dropped out of a helicopter?
Probably somewhere in the 25 to 30 foot range. There's a class that's, I think, one of the best classes in schools that the Coast Guard offers called AHARS, which is Advanced Helicopter Rescue School in Astoria, Oregon. Yeah. And it's put on there for a reason because there's cliffs and caves and big waves, and it's very high tempo training. But the high seas days at the mouth of the Columbia River get pretty big. Yeah, no doubt. What's the difference from the swimmer's point of view from 15 to 25? What feels different? What is
Is there a different technique you use? Talk about that.
So it's interesting that you had, depending on what gear you have on, obviously, it's not just like jumping off a cliff like you might have done when you were a kid, but also big fins, and the rotor wash can push you down in a way that if you're not used to it, it's very easy. If you look down at your feet or at the water, you can tip and kind of belly flop, and yard sail is what we call it. So you kind of have to look at the horizon, and it's very easy to mess up, but it's not hard to do.
Gotcha. It was fun to watch, wasn't it, John?
Yeah, it was really cool. I just happened to be in the right position at the right time when he jumped in and got to see that. That was cool.
There was a lot going on yesterday. One of the things that we did when you talk about rotor wash, we came on land, landed to get some shots of you on the long line on the hoist going up and down. The rotor wash off that 60 is amazing. We've been around rotor wash for years. That was really something yesterday, being right there under it.
Yep.
It was hard to stand up. Mm-hmm. So when you said that, I went, oh, that makes sense, that it could move you in the air as you're dropping, because it was moving us standing on the ground. It was moving us. We're holding on to each other in our gear. That was a lot of fun. Anything else from yesterday that stood out? Anything unusual, or was that a typical training scenario?
Pretty standard. Sometimes there's more hoist depending on what the swimmer needs, or the flight mech, or the pilots, depending on hoists, or just different deployments and different recoveries. If we have another swimmer, or what devices we use, it was pretty much all just me jump out and then they pick me back up and we rinse and repeat.
It is just routine for Zach, but to us, we were like, our jaws dropped, and we're watching the hover holds too. I mean, we were taking it all in from the both perspectives of the swimmer, the hoist operator, and the pilots, and just meshing together, which we'll get into in a second. John, yesterday, talk about your feelings from yesterday.
Thank you to our sponsor, Centum. Airborne operators know that every second counts. LifeSeeker is a powerful phone location tool helping search and rescue teams and law enforcement agencies locate missing persons faster, even in the toughest conditions. With hundreds of successful missions every year and proven reliability, LifeSeeker is trusted by public safety agencies worldwide. Want to improve your operations? Learn more at Centum.com.
Yeah, it was all the things you guys just talked about, but one of the things that I continue to think through, both on your side and the pilot side in the front, is the importance of that training cadence. How important those repetitions are as you go, so that when the alarm rings and you're actually responding to an incident, you know exactly what's normal. And when something's out of place, you know that too. So I really admire you guys for that training tempo. It's something that I think most agencies wish they could mirror. But obviously operational requirements and budgets constrain a lot of people from that ability to train at that level. But really cool just seeing that. 2 flights yesterday. Were you part of that second flight?
I was not.
Okay. But yeah, interesting that you guys get to do this routinely, and I understand why it's so important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Does it feel, when you go on the real live mission, this is for both of you, does it feel like when you get there, oh, I've done this hundreds of times, and where you have that confidence? Nate, do you feel like that on real life missions because of the training tempo?
Yeah, you certainly reach a point where you've trained, and this is why it's important to train in different ways, different styles, different types of hoists, because you're not always going to have a boat that looks exactly like our training boat, or any of the boats we train with normally, or maybe the spot up north where we hoist into the woods, right? So every time, from the pilot and the pilot in command's perspective, every time you arrive on scene, typically in our line of work, you might not know everything about what you're coming into. You might not know what the boat looks like.
Exactly.
And typically here you get a personal locator beacon goes off, and that's all you know. Yeah. And when you show up out there, you could be looking for a boat sinking. It might be a boat and everyone's fine, and they just accidentally hit a button. Just 2 months ago, Zach and I had one of these cases, and we got about 5 miles from the position, and we saw a stream of smoke across the water, and we realized, oh my, that boat's on fire.
Oh, didn't know that in the call.
Had no idea. And it turns out now we've got a boat completely in flames and a life raft over here, and the situation's completely changed. Wow. So point being, like you said, repetitions, you practice so that when you get on scene, you can take all this new information, apply it, come up with a plan, and we've already got the fundamentals to come up with a plan that's going to work.
Add your perspective to that, Zach.
I think it's exactly what Mr. Jones said. It's every case can be similar, but every case is different, especially for, weather point of view or a patient's point of view, and the people that you're dealing with might react differently, and that changes a lot of things. But you learn, and we're really good as an organization, I think, going over everyone's cases and keeping very modest and not ever, especially in our shop, people will get humbled very quick if you kind of get a big head on a case, and it's all about a learning perspective. And if you learn something from a case that you had, or a technique that someone else did, especially the older guys in the shop, you can take that and implement it into a real life scenario.
No doubt.
It's interesting. I feel like the maritime environment and the aviation environment are two environments where there's very little, if any, margin for error. And it's just the costs, the risks are so high in both environments. And you guys combine the two almost on every mission you're a part of. A lot of respect to you guys doing that, Yeah.
My takeaway from yesterday was twofold. Number one, first time in a Hawk. First time. And for John, too. That was a thrill.
Yeah.
I mean, I've come close so many times and just never worked out. That was a thrill to get in the back of this machine. And by the way, just so we're clear, MH60T is what we were in. That's what's behind us here.
Yep. The MH60 Tango. Yep.
Tango. Okay, we'll dig into that here in a few minutes. But just so I get it right, I don't want to have the 60 guys going out there and go, "Hey, that's this model." And okay, we know what it is now. MH60 Tango, and that was a thrill. Here's the other thing I took away: professionalism and confidence. Those two things together. From the time we were sitting in the briefing room, going through the brief with everybody chiming in. Everybody. Zach, you talked about
a little
things.
bit,
Yeah. I mean, the photographers spoke, the pilots, obviously. I mean, from that moment, I know how I felt. I felt, yeah, baby, we're good to go here, man. And then from the walkout, putting our equipment on, getting that all straightened out. It was just very professional, and I had 100% confidence. Didn't blink. And you feel the same way?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, going back to repetition, we've been a part of a lot of briefs and debriefs, and a good brief when you see one, and that was a good brief. I think anytime we're following a checklist, which you all were, that's the key, So yeah, well done there.
Yeah, it was really good. It was good. So let's kick into gear here and talk about something that's very, very important in your world, and that's hoist work. I mean, that is such a big. It's kind of like the bread and butter. It is what you do. There's other things you do, but I mean, that hoist and operating it and using it in a variety of ways is really the gist of what you guys are all about. And it involves the whole team that's in there, both pilots, the swimmer, and who's operating the hoist. What's their title officially in a Coast Guard? Flight mechanic, but they're the hoist operator, right? And so the four of you working together, and that piece of equipment is huge. So let's talk about it. Nate, from the pilot perspective, working hoist missions, is there something that jumps out at you that you can talk about that we say, yeah, this is the one main thing that we as pilots really, really have to get right or live by, or when it relates to hoist work?
I would say teamwork and consistency. And like you mentioned earlier, it's a teamwork drill. Yeah. So as the pilot, I'm sitting about 8 or 10 feet in front of a flight mechanic who's looking down a hoist, and he's got Zach attached to him, and I can't see what they're doing.
Right.
As the pilot, you're listening to the flight mechanics. We call them the cons. They're essentially directing the pilot what direction they want to go relative to the nose of the plane. Sometimes that's pretty simple, like you saw yesterday. It's pretty standard training. You have a boat at about a 50-degree angle, and you're going to go in and out. And the pilots, you do that enough, we almost don't need them to say anything.
Right.
But the reason we practice that standardization is so that when we do go on a case, and now you've got a boat you've never seen before, and you need to come up with a new plan, you can now talk about it as a crew. So if there's ever a situation where you're seeing something for the first time, we always take a pause and talk about it. Checklists, briefs. We want to get Zach's input. Hey, we want to put Zach down on this part of the boat. Zach, what do you think about that? And he'll give his input. Flight mechanic will give his input. And Zach brought up a good word, humility, earlier. You have to be humble.
Yep.
And I can relate to that as a newer aircraft commander. It was my first duty night in Clearwater, actually, coming from northern Michigan. Was a case out in the Gulf, and we had a boat at night, and I gave a plan, and luckily I had a flight mech who had the confidence to speak up and say, hey, I don't think that's a good idea.
Wow.
And we said, roger that. All right, let's come with a new one. And we wound up completely changing our plan, affected a successful hoist, and it's that type of confidence and teamwork that we rely on. But for hoisting itself, the pilot's perspective, it's difficult because you're sitting up front. Your job's to maneuver the aircraft when you can't necessarily see everything that's going on. You're not looking down at the hoisting area.
We talk a lot about developing a culture that rests on just what you're talking about, the ability and confidence to say no when something's not right. Talk about how you guys develop that culture and enable people to say, hey, I don't think that's a good idea.
I think that starts with the brief. Like you mentioned earlier, you guys said it was a good brief. Yeah. That means that everyone had a voice. Everyone felt that they could speak up. And even if we're bringing a passenger along that has never been on an aircraft before, part of that brief is you're part of this crew too. You have a voice. If you see something or you hear something that doesn't sound right or you're curious about, speak up and we'll talk about it. And that's safety issues, general questions. Yeah. So everyone's got a voice, and as a commander of an aircraft, part of your job is to recognize the experience of not only yourself but your crew and ensure that you're empowering the folks that are working with you to speak up, because sometimes you will have that more timid flight mechanic who's new to the game or rescue swimmer who's super anxious to go jump in the water, but maybe we need to take a step back and think about what we're really doing here.
Is that teamwork idea, and by the way, we've heard that word a lot the past 2 weeks when it comes to this from the other units as well, so I wasn't surprised that you said that. But is that teamwork, is that instilled into you as a pilot day one, where they start talking about, okay, we're going to teach you to fly this thing, but keep in mind when you're out in the real world, you're going to be working as a team. Is that something that they start early on?
Definitely, yeah, and that's probably the biggest challenge for Coast Guard helicopter pilots, because, and we can go into training pipelines for aviation, but essentially we spend 2 years at Navy flight school. Yeah. And their whole pipeline is built off the premise that you are going to become a fighter jet pilot, a single pilot. Mm-hmm. And so you come out of flight school with your wings, but you have not yet had the opportunity to work with another crew in a multi-crew aircraft, to lead crew members in the back. And so when you first step into our aviation training center at Mobile, that's one of the biggest challenges, is learning how to lead effectively, but also learning how to work together. Yeah. Because it's not about telling everyone what to do. It's about knowing when I have the controls and we lose an engine, this is my job, and you need to know your job as well, because I can't move the power control levers and move the collective at the same time. Yeah. So it is a learned skill, but it's emphasized in training, and it's you can't fail at it. Yeah. One thing I'm curious about, when you're on training or real missions, there is you have the capability to hover hold on a sort of autopilot, I assume, correct? But I can tell already, what percentage of the time are you're at the controls holding that hover versus pressing that autopilot to hold the hover for training or rescue? 100%. 100% of the time at the controls. And I can't speak for everybody. Okay. I know different services have different procedures, but I think not only take pride in, but emphasize that we need to be the ones telling this aircraft what to do. Right. We have automation. Sure. There's a time to use it. I've always leaned on that as a backup. Should maybe you lose visibility while you're hoisting, you can rely on that to hold a position, to spatial disorientation, avoid unintentionally moving the aircraft. But yesterday, and I'll give you this example. I was impressed. We were just in the photo ship hovering, but we were holding, it was rock solid. I mean, it was just amazing. And I saw who was at the controls. It was Anna. And I went to her afterward and said, hey, listen, that was that you the whole time? She goes, yes, sir. I went, man. And I just shook her hand and said, that was just impressive. And then I asked her about what's your reference? What's your reference point that you're looking at to hold that hover there? And we talked about that. It was really interesting. But she said, yeah, that was all us. And went back and forth between her and Andy. But it was really impressive. Did you notice that those hovers were it was incredible? Great. Yep. And now we know why, because sometimes this guy is at the end of that wire and
you have to be precise. You can't have that wiggle. And there's wind and there's weather and stuff. But really, that's really interesting. I'm glad we touched on that.
Awesome.
I think a lot of our listeners are going to go, 100%. Whoa. Because it's impressive, especially for the pilots listening. I go, that's not easy to do. But you learn to do it by practicing it so much. And it's such an important part of your job. Wow. Really cool. Zach, you're at the end of that line. So your perspective on hoisting, that's your lifeline many times. Talk about some overall thoughts about the hoist and how important it is. And it's kind of the same topic we talked with Nate about, but your swimmer view of it.
I think this might be a hot take, but I think hoisting wise, we probably have the easiest of the jobs. I'm not hovering an aircraft. I can't hover an aircraft and, not see where I'm hoisting to or the flight mech managing cable and stuff. I'm mainly looking at weather and where we're going to be hoisting to, whether it's the back of a cruise ship or, say we come up on, I had a shrimp boat that was taken on water, my first case here, and it was, hey, we probably can't hoist to this, all the rigging and stuff and getting tangled. How am I going to deploy? Is it at night? Can I free fall? Can I do a sling deployment if it's at night, if it's high seas, and then I can swim up to the boat? Or what kind of situation are we dealing with? Because once you get on the hook, I can always abort a hoist, and they can hoist me back up, and we can reset or a lot of different stuff. And, I trust my pilots. I trust my flight mechanics, but I'm kind of at their, whim of where they're going to put me. Sometimes it's not in the right place, and then you have to just figure it out from there. Right.
I had a feeling the word trust was going to come into play here from your point of view, because you do a free fall into the water and now you're in doing your job. You're dependent on that team that's up there for your own life now, not just the person that you might be saving. It's just a lot of trust, something beyond trust that we've probably experienced as crews.
Do you have a desired delivery method, whether it's free fall or hoist or?
Thank you to our sponsor, CNC Technologies. CNC Technologies, serving law enforcement, government, and military markets with tailored mission solutions, system training, and live 24/7 support with CNC.live platform. Explore more at cnctechnologies.com.
Free falls are always the most fun. It's pretty rare, honestly, to get an operational free fall where you have the right conditions, because obviously you can't free fall at night. And a lot of the times you'll do a harness deployment, you're not going to free fall to a cruise ship or to a boat. There's a lot of those stuff. So sometimes a free fall operationally is harder to obtain to have the right situations. But honestly, however I can get down there and get the job done, it's, no big deal. I like to do it in the safest possible way. A lot of these young guns, like Mr. Jones said, we kind of have to reel back in some young gun swimmers who are just, diving in. They want to get in the water. They want to do the case where I've had cases where I'm saying, I'm not, there's no need to go. There's a boat 5 minutes away. We're just going to orbit.
Yep.
And then the Coast Guard boat will get these guys. Yeah. But in my younger days, I probably would have said, I'm going to free fall immediately. I want to be the first one here, and there's no reason to. We can take a step back. We have the assets, not only with air crew, but the great boat stations around here that back us up.
Yeah, it's the old thing. You can, but should you?
Exactly.
Yep.
For us, that came up in law enforcement aviation. Can I hover at 300 feet for my tactical flight officer to look at something with binoculars, or hold the camera steady to look in a tight space? Can I do that at 300 feet? The answer is yes. I can do that all day long. That's what this thing's made for. Should I? At 300 feet over downtown Los Angeles. You know what I mean? And the can and should are huge in our decision making. Sounds exactly what you just described. You can, but should you? 5 minutes away, a boat?
These are like very specific situations, but you do have to bring in the entire scope of the situation of
exactly
how am I going to approach, because it's very easy to get hurt on the hoist hook. Every single swimmer who's been in, I would say longer than 4 or 5 years, has been grounded at some point, has been jerked. The hoist hook and the hoist cable is probably the most dangerous thing us as swimmers deal with in the helicopter.
Wow, that's interesting.
I mean, you think about it, waves, especially if the flight mech is not paying out enough cable, then, you get taken by a wave, helicopter stays in the same place, and then you get jerked or load shocking, and there's a lot of things that can happen.
Wow. Interesting.
Experience is interesting as you're talking through the ability to take the totality of the circumstances in. And I'm thinking of my early days in patrol as a police officer, and the moment somebody ran from me, it was the exact moment I'm like, I need to chase that person without being able to take in the totality of what's happening. And I've found as my career progressed, you started to be able to stand back and be like, yeah, you know what, maybe there's some better options here. Given the tools that I've got, aviation, canine, everything else. So same thing applies here. And again, going back to the idea that the maritime environment and the aviation environment they're zero, almost, if any, room for error, right? So really cool to see that experience level for you set in a way that I can relate to in law enforcement.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. Really good analogy. Nate, moving target, stationary target. And let's face it, in the ocean or in the water, it's even a boat that's sitting still is still moving. I get that. But I mean, moving target where you have no choice to do your job now with dealing with a hoist on a moving target versus something that's just dead in the water. Big difference for you as a pilot?
Yeah, we generally prefer moving. So if we're talking hoisting to vessels, we prefer moving, and there's a reason. Big one, stability. Second one is aerodynamics for the helicopter. So if we're moving, we've got a little bit more relative wind, which makes it safer, more efficient, so less power. It also enables us to hold a steadier course. And as long as, and this is sometimes the difficulty you run into, is if you're going to go do a rescue off a recreational vessel, for example, the person driving the boat has probably never seen a helicopter 40 feet over their heads before. And I have had a case where we resorted, I think, to plan D because they just couldn't steer straight. But if you can, we can maintain a much more stable profile in formation with a boat.
Yeah.
If we're talking vessels dead in the water, that becomes a little more tricky. That's a little bit more of a high-risk maneuver, and it's much more dynamic because now every time you get near that boat, the rotor wash is going to spin it, and you might not know how much or how far.
Right.
It just depends on the vessel's riding characteristics. So if you can keep them underway, keep them underway.
Yeah. So on a moving target, boats going at whatever speed, you still can't see it. I mean, right? I mean, so you're depending on that flight mechanic that's on that hoist to verbally walk you into the pace, the how tight, all
that's
that.
Right.
Just verbally. You're looking out, trying to stay steady, listening in your ear, and making adjustments as you hear them.
Right. And a prudent pilot, I believe, would plan to lose sight of that vessel at some point, which means you're going to set your aircraft up, set your trim up in a position where if you go too far and you miss that boat, you're going to be able to maintain a stable hover and slowly back off and regain visual. That's probably the most common cause of hoist shears is losing contact with the boat and inadvertently wrapping the cable and snagging something. And our procedure is to shear. If you think we're going to hurt someone or something, shear.
Is there a lot more verbiage going on from the flight mechanic on moving or stationary?
It's about the same. It's about the same. The stationary is a lot more dynamic because you basically break it up into 4 parts. You need to first deliver a line to the boat. So you're going to make an approach to the boat, and then the boat's going to start to move. You then need to back off and get into a position where you're actually holding the boat in place with rotor wash. And at that point, the pilot's going to be visible with the boat. And we should, once we're all settled out, the pilot will typically acknowledge to the flight mech, all right, we're good to continue. Yeah. And the flight mech's going to focus on delivering ZAC or the rescue device. And then at some point, we need to move back in over that target, again, causing that boat to move around. And you typically have just 2 seconds maybe to take a load before backing off again.
Interesting. That's interesting.
Yes.
So Zach, let's get to the actual hoist here. What's the length of that hoist max, and what is there a preferred height that you want to ask the pilot to be in, that the flight mechanic and yourself or the team is determining to be at? Is there a preferred height, and then what's the longest height?
So it kind of all depends on the situation. Like if you're like yesterday, I think we did an 80-foot hoist,
Okay.
200 feet, usable cable.
Yeah.
Like obviously, if it's DIW and then you're maybe going to blow stuff all over the place, or you're moving the boat and there's people on it that are hurt and could get blown over, or if you're on the West Coast and they're on a cliff, and then obviously that rotor wash, if they're hanging on to a cliff, you're going to want to do a higher hoist.
Right. So you can use all 200 of that? I mean, if you had to.
If you absolutely, you're not going to do a 200-foot hoist, because obviously yesterday even, you saw me spinning like pretty uncontrollably. I can't control that spin at all, or a swing.
Right.
Is going to be very difficult if I have nothing to grab onto. I'm kind of at the mercy of the wind or the rotor wash.
Right.
But it's all going to depend. Usually you're going to stick it, I would say, under 100.
Typically, yeah. And as you approach that maximum length, that's less lateral deviation you can accept, which is not ideal.
If you can do less, is that better for everybody, or is it no? This is what we like to be at.
It depends.
It depends on the seas, I would imagine. Depends on conditions.
It's your environment. It's the situation. But generally, as a pilot, I'm worried about rotor wash.
Right.
In a situation like a vertical surface rescue, we're typically gonna do an overhead check where we look down, do one last check, make sure our rotor wash is in a good place. But if you have a lot of wind, if you can get high, that wind's going to blow behind you, and now you're going to have a more clean air to raise up the survivor or the swimmer. And sometimes you can't see the wind. You can't see the rotor wash. Yeah. Sometimes you get a violent spin, and you're just caught off guard. But
it's also the same for a boat that's taking on water. You could swamp the boat even more and cause it to sink faster. So there's a lot of factors of, okay, should we even hoist to this boat, or should we just drop me in a little bit away and I can swim over there, drop me up current, and then it'll just come straight to me.
Wow.
A lot of factors come into it.
Yeah. Lots of options that you train for. Yeah. That you train for. You say, today we're going to work on this. Today we're going to work on that. And it's probably it's probably endless scenarios that you guys come up with, but between the team to figure out what ifs. The what ifs. We talk about that a lot. Right. The what ifs. What if this happens? Well, let's train for that today. Does that sort of thing happen regularly in the training cycle?
Definitely. Yeah. And one of the pieces of our culture that I really enjoy is that we admit to and learn from each other's mistakes, but also our successes. Like Zach said, whenever we have a good case here, typically crews will debrief it with the rest of the pilots or flight mechs or swimmers. We learn from it. And sometimes it's a case where you think, I didn't know that could happen. Yeah. I've had cases where I was thinking, I never practiced that, but you figured out on scene, and now you've got something that you can use to pass on to other folks and develop it before they're put in that situation for the first time.
That's so important.
There's two things I want to talk about. One is the white table or sandbox planning that we talk about quite a bit. We talk about trying to be in a position where the first time you're doing something isn't the first time you've either done it or you at least talked about it. Talk about your guys' process as it pertains to that, whether it's on a whiteboard talking through scenarios that you haven't seen or been a part of, or some variant of that. Is that something you guys are a part of or do?
On the pilot side, I would say that it happens in a few different areas. So it happens over the course of your upgrade syllabi. So as you progress through your different pilot designations, you become an advanced SAR qualified pilot. That means you're expected to be able to perform advanced search and rescue hoisting evolutions. And as an aircraft commander or upcoming aircraft commander, part of your job is to talk to people and learn from other folks, because it's not all written down in a textbook. You have to discuss it, and that happens in weekly pilot training, for example. Happens at our unit every Wednesday morning. All the pilots get together, we talk about some topic, and then we do hot wash anything that's happened over the last week.
I like that.
Or any cases that have come up. Any mishaps from other units that that didn't even happen here, we can discuss those. And it's all about acknowledging, documenting, and learning those lessons so that we can better ourselves.
Is Coast Guard really good about sharing and disseminating that information nationwide to you guys? When something happens in Kodiak, you guys will hear about it pretty quickly, and where you can debrief it yourselves?
As far as mishaps go, yeah. Mishaps will be posted to a board, Coast Guard wide, and it's all in a database that you can find.
The other part I want to touch on is the debrief concept, because that's something we talk about a lot. We think is super valuable. debriefs can be challenging for a lot of reasons. Ego is the biggest obstacle for most debriefs. Talk about how you guys plan your debriefs in a way that is consumable for the people that are in that debrief.
Well, when I finish a flight, usually I'll open it up with, do you guys have anything good that you liked, anything you didn't like, and anything that was unsafe? And we open the floor, and we ensure that we go around to each individual on the crew. Again, everyone's got a voice, making sure that everyone feels they can speak up. If there's anything that happened on the flight, the non-flying pilot will typically, if they're paying attention, make a note of it as something that we can bring up afterwards. And I think we do a really good job of speaking up and not only talking about what maybe we could improve, but what we're doing right and that you should continue doing right.
Yeah. The debrief's not just a place to learn from our mistakes. It's a chance to promote what we're doing well. So I like that you bring that in. Zach, for you, anything that comes to mind as debriefs go that have been helpful for you as part of that crew?
I would say a big benefit is how small the Coast Guard aviation community is, and like the relationships that we actually have. Like, I feel like we kind of have a relationship where I would be able to come to him and say, hey, I didn't like this or whatnot. Or if it was someone that I didn't know that maybe is new to the unit, I could take them aside or take, you aside as if there's a new co-pilot and say, hey, what do you this is how I felt about this. Am I in the right to bring this up? Or not that, you're ever afraid to bring something up. You just don't know how some people are going to take it if they're new to the unit. But most of the crews here, we've all flown together in some capacity. It's not always the same crew, but I've flown with all the pilots here. I've flown with all the flight mechs here. And it's the relationship you gain, especially getting on deployment to Great Inagua, which we go for 2 weeks. You can really come together as a crew, spending so much time together that there's really no, when it comes to flight safety and, hey, I didn't like this. We're not here to, belittle anyone. It's just the nature of the game.
Yep.
I encourage anyone to call me out, especially in the shop, or if I'm doing something not even flight related, like, you don't like it, let me know. I'll let you know as well.
That's cool.
It's as it should be. Easier said than done. Do we agreed?
Yep.
I mean, you have to be disciplined for the debrief. You have to park your ego and you have to be disciplined about it. But it's the best training tool there is. Is to debrief good and bad. The successes and failures. It's the best way to learn. And you don't even have to be there. I mean, you can learn from a debrief and you weren't even involved in it.
Yeah.
You were at home in bed and you get to sit in and listen to a debrief and it's like, wow. I just picked up 5 things out of that debrief that I have never thought about before. It's a great tool. It can't be done enough. Real good conversation. That's a good way to start, to talk about the hoisting. And I learned a lot about that. The moving and dead in the water. I was surprised that it was reversed what I thought you were going to say.
Right.
But once you said it and explained it, I went, that makes perfect sense. You're in a helicopter. I mean, moving is good. It's good, You want to do it. So let's get into you guys. We'll start with you, Zach. You both have amazing, very unique backgrounds. And we're going to start with you. Tell us about yourself, where you grew up, and education, all that stuff, and how you ended up in the Coast Guard.
All right. So originally born and raised Cary, North Carolina, never moved. My parents still live in the same house. It was very, at the time it was a small town. Now it's, kind of grown outside of Raleigh, North Carolina. But how I got into it's all started with swimming. I almost drowned when I was probably 4 in a hotel pool, got saved by the hotel lifeguard. And my parents said, you're joining the swim team. And I protested and they said, we don't care. Ended up loving it. Ended up swimming competitively for 18 years. Blessed enough to get a scholarship to go swim for a mid-major Division I school, UNC Wilmington, on the coast of North Carolina. Swam there for 4 years, and it's on the beach. So the natural progression of the guys before me and what you did was you lifeguarded on the beach during the summers. So I lifeguarded for 5 years there, from 2013 to 2018, I believe. A long time ago. But and then they had a competition team too for a lifeguard. If you guys have never been to a lifeguarding competition, it's pretty wild.
Yeah.
But the USLA, United States Life Saving Association has nationals and regional events all over the country that are super fun, and that got me into this realm of firefighters. And growing up in North Carolina, I had a lot of friends that were ex-military, a lot of them, that I worked with through the fire department and ocean rescue, and graduated with a degree in marine biology, and had no idea what I was going to do. Didn't want to go back to school, couldn't find a job in my major. And then it kind of clicked one day of everything in my life had inadvertently led me in the direction to be a rescue swimmer. Yeah. So I looked at the Navy first, got decently far in the recruiting process with the Navy, and then luckily switched everything up, joined the Coast Guard. And
the Navy guys listening right now just dropped. They're like, I'm not listening anymore.
Yeah. My recruiter was furious with me when I said, hey, listen, I stopped responding to him, and he finally kept calling me, and I answered the phone. I was like, hey, listen, this is not. But it showed me his colors of like not just being a number, which I was to him. At least that's what it seemed to me.
Yeah.
And, the difference between their rescue swimmers and what we do as rescue swimmers in the Coast Guard, could not have been a better fit.
Whether your mission is saving lives or servicing high-value assets, Onboard Systems Hoist stays ready to assist. Features such as single-point payout reduce the potential for hoist-induced load swings, enhancing overall safety. For more information, go to hoist-winch.onboardsystems.com.
It was all spontaneous.
Wow.
I'd not ever thought about this. I never had a plan to join the military. It was just kind of was like, am I going to stay in my college town the rest of my life, or I can go do something with my life?
So the influences were there as a lifeguard, where you started going, okay, I'm a lifeguard, I'm doing this, but you're around the firefighter, that realm, and it kind of pushed you in that direction.
Yeah, I was already an EMT. I didn't want to waste all the time I'd spent staring at a black line in a pool.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do something with it. I was already an EMT, and everything just made sense. I wanted this community, which I found in the swimmer shop, in the same as firehouses, or I'm sure the police have the same kind of community of a brotherhood, a fraternity that I can do, and it can make it into a career.
Yeah. Maybe you'll get to meet him someday on a fly-in, but we just had a similar story with Captain Jason Van Buskirk at Miami-Dade Fire. Lifeguard. And he saw things and was influenced by people, and that job, which drew him into the fire service, which drew him into air rescue. Very interesting. It sounded almost identical to lifeguard.
Yep.
There are a lot of us, too. There are a ton of swimmers now that used to be ocean guards.
Makes sense.
Used to be, they swim in college, and there's also a big mix of guys who just wanted to do this their entire life, and this was their only goal, and they made it happen and figured it out.
So marine biology, you just kind of, after you graduate with a marine biology degree, you just decided, no, I need more than that, or?
So marine biology is kind of a very specific major to where I would have had to go back to school.
Right.
And get my, go to grad school.
Right.
But I didn't know if I wanted to do that, and I was looking for jobs, and I had subleased a room on the beach with a bunch of great roommates, and it was just I knew it was never going to get better than that. Yeah. So I needed a big switch up. Didn't want to go test water quality at construction sites. It was not play with sea turtles, and it was very hard to find something in my career, and just did a 180 and never looked back.
So you were never walking down a beach in Wrightsville Beach, right? You never were walking down Wrightsville Beach and as a marine biology degree, and you're walking down the beach and you come across a distressed whale or anything? You never had that?
Nothing. Never saw a thing. A lot of it was me really struggling in school to say, what the hell am I learning about here? I was way more focused on the athletic side of college than I was the academic side, which is hence my second senior year.
Yeah.
But graduated.
But no whale saves.
No whale saves. I ended up my first unit in Elizabeth City. I volunteered and was helping rehabilitate sea turtles.
Okay, that's
the
close,
most I've done with my degree since graduating.
Okay.
It's interesting though, is you're operating in the marine environment and around marine biology probably more than anybody else you went to school with, right?
It is interesting how it all kind of came that way. I just knew I just wanted to stay by the ocean my entire life, and this was a great outlet to make that happen.
But
cool.
you could come across a whale in distress today and maybe save it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, the seas were angry that day, my friend.
That's right.
If the pilots say, hey, we can take this weight, then absolutely, we'll grab it.
I mean, there could be a golf ball and a blowhole. I mean,
A Titleist?
maybe a Titleist.
Maybe.
We
Wait a
love
minute,
that.
wait a
We
minute.
saw marine biology. We go, we're getting it. The seas are angry that day, my friend.
It is funny, sometimes you'll see a shark on a case or out there, and I can identify some of them. It's been a little while, but you're like, okay, that's a little
We
weird.
saw a lot of sharks the other day down in Biscayne Bay area.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, we're flying around. I keep looking at Brent, and he's just doing this as we're flying, putting the shark. I'm like, holy cow, they're everywhere.
We see that a lot where the flight mech will throw that up, and you're like, I don't know if they're kidding or not, but they're like, you ready to go? And I'm like, all right, you just threw that up.
Yeah.
You know?
I was ready. Now I'm not.
away.
Yeah.
It was funny because we talked to Jason about this, how alligators had come into the perspective of some of the deployments for him in Florida. Having it into your mind, you got to respect it and go, okay, they're about to put me in the Everglades right here. And okay, gator, pretty interesting. Sharks. Wow. Very cool. Talk about, so now you decide, you changed your mind, Coast Guard, and off you go. Talk about where you went for your initial, and then what happened next. How did the initial training turn to the AST school?
So the Coast Guard has, at the time it was Annex X, which now it's the MAP program. It's kind of, the AMTs and AETs kind of have the same thing where you can go and basically train under guys who are actually doing the job before you go to that school. The ASTs, rescue swimmers, have that same program, but it's a little tweaked. So you can qualify for that program before you go to boot camp. It's a separate, harder PT test that you have to take at boot camp. And then when I went through, you were almost guaranteed to be at a station where you would have a active rescue swimmer as a mentor.
Oh, okay.
To train you before school.
That's smart.
Yeah. So
Wow.
I graduated boot camp in Cape May, New Jersey, got stationed in the gym instructing recruits in Cape May, New Jersey under 2 rescue swimmers, and there was a group of guys that were just dedicated to training for ASTA school.
Wow.
Was there for about 11 months, went to ASTA school back when it was still in Elizabeth City, North Carolina. Luckily passed first try, and then got stationed in Elizabeth City right after, so just kept staying exactly where I was. And then 2023 ended up coming down here.
Wow.
On the school side, I know that program, at least in my mind, is one of the most difficult programs that exists on the face of the planet because of the swimming that's involved. Talk about the success rate associated with that line.
So we were talking about it earlier, the attrition rate is roughly anywhere between 60 and 70%, and no matter what they do to try and help that attrition rate, there's really just, it comes down to some people are made for it, some people are not. And some people get bad luck of the draw, whether they get hurt in school and they could have made it, but they break an ankle or something, they pull a muscle or something like that. And a lot of guys that I think could have made it, that something unfortunate like that happens, or people get tested mentally and they're just not up to the standard that is set for a reason to be able to perform this job under stress. But yeah, it's 6 months long. When I went through, it was 3 phases. So the first phase, it was pretty much like jump in and you're straight to it. You're rocking 3 days, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then Tuesday, Thursday, you're doing 1 workout, and that's 6 months long. And then the middle phase is more, you're doing tests throughout the whole thing. The middle phase is starting to learn more about how to hoist, and you're doing a basket rescue and a sling rescue and a uncompliant survivor rescue. And your final phase is more multiple casualty rescues, up to a 6-person rescue in a pool.
Wow. What was this was interesting to me earlier. The standards are very high for that school, obviously, and they are firm. I mean, this is the standard. You have to pass this, all these things. You mentioned to me that the class size varies and the graduation numbers vary dramatically, that there have been graduations of one. That just shows there's a standard there that it's not budging on. It's not about the needs, so to say. I mean, they might say, wow, we're short this many swimmers right now. That doesn't matter. They got to meet the standard, period.
Yep. So since the start, there's only been one class that I know of that graduated. 100% of the people that went in, 100% graduated.
Wow.
So like I said, my class at the time, I haven't been keeping that much track, but was tied for the highest graduation rate in the rescue swimmers history, and we graduated 12 of 26.
Wow.
So every swimmer has a number. You know exactly what your number is. My number is 993, for example. So you know exactly kind of what realm the guys, the kind of era guys graduated school and where the class was and that kind of thing. But I graduated in 2019 at number 993. I think we're in the 1200s now.
Oh, wow.
So in that span of time, we've graduated, we'll say 230 to 250 in the span of going on 6 years. It's not a whole lot to be able to keep up with the demands of what we need to maintain this job.
Wow.
Do you know operationally worldwide how many rescue swimmers are needed to fill every role in global operations?
Globally?
Yeah.
I don't know. We pretty much strictly, I guess technically with the OPAT, we are going to different countries, but swimmers typically don't get deployed globally. We're not in, Japan or Bahrain with these other Coast Guard jobs. We stick it pretty domestic. But it always fluctuates. I heard something today where they were trying to roll out, we need 400 swimmers, and it's like, well, that's more than we have active right now. So I don't know where we're going to get these guys.
Right. That's amazing. But it's a high risk job.
It is.
I mean, you cannot budge on high risk jobs when it comes to standards. Same thing with piloting. I mean, piloting, I'm sure there's washout rates there too. But going back to AST school, most challenging thing, was there one thing or one day or one event within school that you could say that was the most challenging thing for me?
I think it all is dependent on the person. Everyone has their strengths and their weaknesses. Some guys are really strong. The water stuff was never, with my background, I could go the same speed but use less, less energy than a lot of the other guys. But, sled walking was my Achilles heel.
And what's that?
So basically, we would just go for a walk for several miles, and you're in a line, and you got to keep up with the instructor, and you have a belt on that's dragging a sled with just plates of weight on it. Okay. And you just go for a walk. I think the longest we did was 3 or 4 miles.
Dragging a sled with weights on it.
Dragging a sled, just going for a walk. And I've got short legs. I was pretty much at a slow jog the entire time, just fighting to keep up. But like I said, other people had problems, with water confidence is a huge one where guys quit.
Yeah.
Holding your breath, being, stressed out, having that high heart rate, that gets a lot of people.
I'll bet. But for you, with your background, that was just a fun day?
I mean, I got dizzy a lot, but, luckily got through it.
Yeah.
It's a mental challenge that we can test the guys that we train here to go to school as much as we can, and physically they can be ready, but you never know once they get there if they have the mental capacity to deal with that stress that is required, because the main thing is it gets you ready for this job in a sense of, once I leave the aircraft, if I get somewhere safely, I'm alone at the end of the day, and people could be freaking out, people could be barking orders. Say you get a guy who has a helo background and is shooting ideas at you of how you need to, hoist his loved one. You kind of need to put that aside and say, and have the confidence to control that situation and tell everyone in a nice way, like, back off. You don't know, exactly what you're talking about.
Right.
I'm going to handle this, and we're going to handle it the best way we can as a crew. and not having those outside factors affect your decision making.
Emotions are powerful. As cops, we saw that all the time. I mean, that's why domestic violence cases are the most dangerous cases for cops, because there's emotion. It's not anything else. It's all about emotion. And so I could see dealing with a family member that they want that loved one up in that helicopter now. And that may not happen because of the long list of things that through training that you learned about. But
it's a morality thing too, especially if someone's in a really bad place, and it could be the last time this loved one sees that. This is a worst case scenario, sees that person, but that's going to take more time to hoist them. If something goes bad in the helo, then not only am I dealing with the person that needs help, but that other person is going to be freaking out. And that just adds a whole nother factor that we talk to. And I have a radio and I'll call them and say, listen, I'm going to have to make the tough choice, but we're not hoisting this person.
Right.
Too much of a risk if it comes down to that.
In school, you mentioned that a lot of it's mental with the water stuff. Now, you're a Division I accomplished swimmer, so being in the water was second nature to you. But were there things that you had to do in that school that went beyond things that you had done before, with all that swimming experience?
Luckily, lifeguarding kind of prepared me a decent amount with handling people in the water. But I mean, the instructors out there were great, and they're still great to this day. I know a lot of them, and they're big, heavy boys, and they are looking for you to hit that point, that make or break point, which I'm sure is the same for buds or PJs and stuff like that. And how are you gonna push past that point and get to a spot where they trust you and are like, this guy, no matter what, this guy's gonna get the job done. Whether you lose a fin or your mask is, you have to kind of throw everything to the wind and say, this is what's gonna happen. Control the situation. If I lose my mask and I am barely breathing, out of my snorkel, then I'm still going to be able to get the job done.
Yeah. And I'm sure they simulated combative victims for you in the water that tested your patience and your physical abilities.
So there was a guy, he's since retired. He's a good friend of mine named Travis Peck. We used to, when they would wrap us up, they've changed now, but there was escapes and releases if someone actually wrapped you up, how to hit these pressure points and throw them off you.
Right.
And the way you did it during practice is you put your hands behind your back and you closed your eyes and you just had to fin at them. And you knew it was coming. They'd splash you and kind of get you to flinch. And he hit me so hard, he split the bridge of my nose. And we flipped about near completely upside down. And it was the hardest I've ever been squeezed, just his chest right on my face. But I've never forgot it. And luckily, I've never been grabbed like that.
But you're ready for it now.
Exactly.
You experienced it already. Wow, that's powerful.
Yeah, the instructors out there are great. It prepares you for the job, but doesn't necessarily teach you the ins and outs of the job, if that makes sense.
Right. Very cool. Oh, man, what a cool story. And starting with a near drowning.
Yep.
Wow. Do you remember that day?
Vaguely. It was a hot tub. It was a big hot tub. And I remember my dad saying, I forgot towels or something. He left and he said, don't get in the water. And I said, I'm getting in the water.
Oh, boy.
But it was a big in-ground hot tub that jets on. I jumped in. I was not expecting it to be deep and or 100 and however many degrees. So I sunk straight to the bottom. Lifeguard jumped in, grabbed me, and then that was pretty much the end of that day.
Wow. That's incredible. But look at where you are now.
Yep.
That's just really incredible. Nate, you've got a fascinating background too. Share with us growing up and education and ending up your route to the United States Coast Guard.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Hangar Z podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe to hear more stories that promote the personnel and equipment behind the missions in public safety aviation. Lastly, stand by for a message after a word from our sponsors. Cheers. Whether your mission is saving lives or servicing high-value assets, Onboard Systems Hoist stays ready to assist. Features such as single-point payout reduce the potential for hoist-induced load swings, enhancing overall safety. For more information, go to hoist-winch.onboardsystems.com.
Thank you to our sponsor, CNC Technologies. CNC Technologies, serving law enforcement, government, and military markets with tailored mission solutions, system training, and live 24/7 support with CNC.live platform. Explore more at cnctechnologies.com.
Thank you to our sponsor, Centum. Airborne operators know that every second counts. LifeSeeker is a powerful phone location tool helping search and rescue teams and law enforcement agencies locate missing persons faster, even in the toughest conditions. With hundreds of successful missions every year and proven reliability, LifeSeeker is trusted by public safety agencies worldwide. Want to improve your operations? Learn more at Centum.com.
Thank you for joining us for episode 1 of 2 with the United States Coast Guard. Both Nate and Zach have worked extremely hard to achieve their goals within the Coast Guard. In episode 2, we will discuss the extreme weather these crews deal with regularly, and we will learn about some incredible life-saving work they have both completed. Thank you again to Switlik Survival Products for sponsoring this year's Blades of Valor Tour. Much of the U.S. Coast Guard's survival equipment is designed and manufactured by Switlik. Go to switlik.com to learn more about this incredible company. We are extremely grateful to everyone at Air Station Clearwater for the warm welcome and the amazing cooperation to get so much extraordinary content by our entire team. Stay safe, and we'll catch you for episode 2 on the Hangar Z podcast.